PNC News First is presented by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Pizza Hut, we're taking pizza to where it's never been before. Taco Bell, the only place where you live Moss. Colgate, the #1 brand recommended by dentists. And IT&D.
PNC News First, broadcasting live in high definition from Tumon, Guam, on KEQI and KTGM, and on KPPI on Saipan. Here is your PNC News team.
Hafide and good evening. You're watching PNC News First. We are live from the Broadcast Center in Akanta. I'm Jolene Tovis. Thanks for tuning in. Topping our newscast tonight, police worked quickly to bring the individuals responsible for the murder of Keith Castro to justice so that they could answer to the crime. Now Thomas Taitano and Joshua Palacios are behind bars, accused in his death. Here's more. The motive for Castro's murder remains a mystery. All police have told the community is that Castro was at the home on Chalintun Fred Cabeza Street on July 28th to help sell a motor vehicle. And although it is unclear why Tomas Taitano and Joshua Palacios showed up to the residence, police say Taitano and Castro immediately began to fight. Through the investigation, authorities uncovered that Taitano beat Castro with a baton, continuing his assault on Castro as he attempted to flee. That's when Palacios shot him. Palacios told police that he had smoked methamphetamine for 5 days prior to him pulling the trigger, and that because of his drug use, he did not remember being at the residence, indicating that, quote, ice makes him black out, end quote. The judicial process is not new to either men, as both have had run-ins with the law and have violent criminal histories. PNC's files show that gunman Palacios was arrested in 2012 in connection to a string of armed robberies in which police say he confessed to his involvement in the robberies of the Thai Show Game Room, Winter Game Room, H.A. Mart, and Golden Motel. Meanwhile, in 2014, according to court documents, it indicates that Taitano was charged with aggravated arson as a second-degree felony. Court documents state that he set a blaze to his Dededo home by knocking over a candle after engaging in an altercation with his brother. He was also accused of attempting to strike his brother with a machete. That case did not go to trial. Instead, Taitano took a deal with the government, pleading guilty to aggravated arson as a second-degree felony. The plea resulted in him being sentenced to 5 years in prison, and he was released on July 23, 2017. His parole was scheduled to end in 2020, but according to parole services, he has been on the run for a year. During the investigation of Castro's shooting, police say that Taitano had assaulted 3 other individuals the day after Castro was found dead at the Jigo home. A separate case, court documents indicate that Taitano attempted to run over 2 men and a woman. It was indicated that the woman was romantically involved with Taitano. The complaint shares that Taitano had also ran his vehicle into 2 vehicles belonging to the woman, further indicating that Taitano had stated recently, quote, he would kill anyone who stopped him from seeing his girlfriend, and that he was not afraid to go to jail, end quote. During this incident, police say that Taitano ran from authorities, slamming his vehicle into a police unit before taking them on a high-speed car chase, which ended with Taitano crashing his vehicle and evading police on foot. In court today, Palacios, who is represented by attorney Terrence Timberland, answered to the charges against him, which include murder, keeping in mind that he has 5 previous convictions.
You're innocent of the charges as it stands today. However, the court does note there are 5 prior convictions as well. Your risk assessment is high. Additionally, the information provided in the declaration as well as provided by the people, the court is concerned you will not comply with court orders. The court is concerned you may be a flight risk, and the court believes you are a danger to the community. Therefore, the court will require a $500,000 cash bail in this particular case.
Taitano answered to the charges of aggravated assault, pleading not guilty on Saturday. He was held on $100,000 cash bail. In other news, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero released her monthly address focusing on the upcoming school year. PNC's Joshua Taikenko has more.
With an emphasis on new goals for the school year ahead, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero centered on her commitment with Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio to improving education in her monthly address. The governor also highlighted working with the Guam Department of Education to rebuild Simon Sanchez High School.
As we continue to advance our administration's vision of change, we remain committed to working with the Guam Department of Education to rebuild Simon Sanchez High School so that one day the first day of school at the campus is not mixed with unease.
She also addressed plans for a fiscal year 2020 budget that works for teachers and students and funding a wage study for teachers and nurses. Governor Leon Guerrero additionally focused on their safety task force to combat crime, stand up to bullying, and create a safe learning environment for children.
Parents and educators and students themselves are the experts on the daily atmosphere in schools. They know how to look for signs of bullying, abuse, illegal substances, and threatening or suspicious activity.
The Magat Hagat says she looks forward to the task force's final report, which is based on feedback and suggestions from parents, educators, and law enforcement.
We have so much to do, and the path has been cleared.
Josh Tikenko, PNC News.
You can watch the full video of the governor's address at pacificnewscenter.com. In other news, Senator Therese Terlahi is calling for Guam's medical malpractice arbitration law to be carefully reviewed and updated. The review was spurred by the case of David Lubovsky, who sued the Guam Memorial Hospital for the death of his 5-year-old son, Asher. The arbitration law hasn't been updated in more than 30 years, and Terlahi says it needs to be carefully reviewed to ensure patients obtain quality care. She also is concerned that the costs of arbitration, a former alternative to litigation, are prohibitive for claimants. Her goal is to get as much information as possible and have a good discussion from medical and legal professionals.
And so I feel like if we can make it fair, at least for people to get into the system, whether it's arbitration or the court system, that would be a huge success if we can just make sure that it's affordable.
Terlahi says so far she asked the Guam Bar Association to put together a list of lawyers that are interested in helping the legislature to look at the reform of the medical arbitration law. Taking a look at cannabis, Guam received a C grade in the recent Medical Cannabis Access State Report released by the Americans for Safe Access, or ASA, which was an upgrade to the C- it received during the previous year. Here's PNC's Amanda Dedicatoria with the report.
In the 2019 State of States Report, an analysis of medical cannabis access in the United States, the ASA assigns grade to a medical cannabis program in a state or territory using an A to F scale. For the 2018 to 2019 reporting cycle, ASA mentioned several factors that facilitated or hindered the implementation of the medical cannabis program on Guam. ASA noted that Guam had a slow rollout after the enactment of the Joaquin Conception Act in 2016 and 2017, which prompted the signing of legislation that allowed home cultivation for patients, although its provision only applies until dispensaries on the island are operational. In 2019, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero signed a bill that legalized cannabis on island for non-medical use. When signing the bill, the governor indicated that she was establishing a medical cannabis regulation commission to ensure that patients were protected. According to ASA, Guam deserves credit for allowing physicians to recommend medical cannabis for any qualifying condition, but it needs to open dispensaries and address administrative delays to effectively serve patients. ASA noted that the territory illustrates that a good program on paper does not necessarily translate to patient access. Guam also needs to improve its staff training in cannabis cultivation, dispensing, and manufacturing, and increase civil rights protections in the areas of housing, organ transplants, and employment, according to the ASA. Amanda Dedicatoria, PNC News.
ASA evaluates state medical cannabis programs both in isolation and against other state programs. Guam was assessed based on patient rights and civil protections, access to medicine, ease of navigation, consumer safety, and provider requirements. Well, don't go anywhere. Up after the break, we take a look at what's happening outdoors.